Welcome everyone to a probably long overdue breaking news or news format we've previously already run here. With a special edition previously that didn't age well in Apple's What Happens previous advertising, right? Apple at the forefront of privacy. What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone. But yeah, fast forward a couple of years, meet Apple's new expand protection for children, because it's obviously always for the children. And who wouldn't want that, right? Or children, which I know have an own to be safe. At Apple, their global goal is to create technology, empowers people, enriches, yada yada. Help to protect children from predators who use communication tools to recruit and exploit them and limit the spread of child sexual abusive material, CSAM. Introducing new feature in 3 areas developed in collaboration with child safety experts. Communication tools will enable parents to play a more informed role. Also, yeah, parents help. Parents, right? Just watch your children and communicate with them, and right, technology wanting to solve of parents watching and talking with the children. But anyway, navigate the communication online. Also, yeah, technology, right? But technology helping to communicate online and not like a proper social society and education. But messaging app will use on-device machine learning. Also, yeah, we solve everything 2021 and the future. We solve everything with machine learning. Obviously, what could possibly go wrong? So they will now, because it is supposedly, allegedly, maybe a little bit end-to-end encrypted there in the Apple iCloud world. They allegedly, apparently, maybe cannot decrypt that in their cloud. Although maybe I would argue probably they have mechanisms to fulfill government obligations. But anyway, so they allegedly scan this on the device, right? And so always good attention, right? As Edward Snowden says here or writes here on Twitter, no matter how well informed, Apple is basically rolling out mass surveillance to the entire world. With it, make no mistake, if they can scan for child photographs today, they can scan for anything tomorrow, obviously. And in our breaking news series, we have seen this over and over again. All other mechanisms previously established, misused, and again. So why do I have issues with that? Just as Edward Snowden says, this is just the next step, losing the crypto wars back from the 90s. What do we want? We want to be able to communicate. I, with my business, of course, not over photographs, but our secret next plans without our competitors reading that. You want to do online banking or online banking and all the other, or e-government, filling your tax returns or whatever the case might be. And the government, with all their good intentions, always breaking computer systems. And I also don't want that my photographs from the beach of my child with my wife, sometimes with not that many clothes and so on, or your loved ones, and the possibilities are endless, read and watched. They're also Google firing people just these days over misusing their systems and looking up your friends and neighbors' photos and so on. So long story short, these systems are regularly misused. The governments have a track record of misusing that, and I would argue all efforts spent, again, this is just the next step of breaking crypto, breaking end-to-end cryptography, and it's a nice loophole, right? I could even imagine, of course I don't have any special insights, but it wouldn't surprise me if Apple is doing that, because they obviously have inquiries here, as New York Times previously reported just, I think, this year. Censorship surveillance profits hard bargain for Apple in China. Apple data center there and all the manufacturers. So obviously it's also our values, right? Our values of Western values of privacy at home and in your 4 walls. And we should set a good example, right? And we are USA, Europe, Germany, France, UK, not setting good examples anymore, right? How should we tell China, look, the stuff that you're doing there is really not the most amazing for the development of the society and freedom? And this is also the next step, right? First it were the child photographs, and what is with all the free press in China, in other countries, more oppressed and human rights violating countries, China, Russia, North Korea, and so on, and Belarus, right? Just the other day, people found Belarusian living in exile, I think, in Ukraine. And so in this crazy world, right, you would think after the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall, we get the society on a more positive future. But with all the stuff happening in the world, China, Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine conflict, you don't even need to look to Iran and North Korea or Iraq. It's just, especially for us living in Europe, just around the corner, Moscow, 2.5 hours flight, Belarus, Ukraine, even less. And this is a real deal, right? And this is also, it's not about child photos. It is about journalists being able to do their work, and not like Edward Snowden, whistleblowers like Edward Snowden or other in Belarus think corruption doesn't always need to be state surveillance and other war crimes as per Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. Regular people who want to better their country, like in Belarus, like in Moscow, poisoned right there, Navalny in Russia, but also in the United States, of course. And with these tools, they can scan for everything, right? I don't like my family photos there, and it even, and the crazy thing is, as a parent, just as normal examples, right? Of course, you make sometimes relatively naked photos of your baby. It has some pickle somewhere, it has some information, it's your first child, it's a pandemic, you have no neighbor to show them to. You make some photos, you send it to some doctor and stuff, and this is normal use, right? So we create systems. Just to make an example, why would you have mostly naked pictures of your babies? Like, health checks and stuff, especially in this times of social distancing. And even that, I wouldn't even care that much if alarm bells are running there, except Apple directly reporting that to the police, that some in our family and doctors have photos. But as seen here in China, in Russia, Apple bans the rules for Russia. Subscribe now, thank you very much. And so there is precedent, right? This is not like crazy thinking, making some stuff up. You have seen this, how the US reacts with Julian Assange, with Edward Snowden, with other whistleblowers, how Apple, of course, right? Of course they need to bend the rules for local regulations, right? And as much as we might not like the regulations in China or in Russia, they are coming to us in the US, in Europe. You don't need to look much further than at us here in Germany, as Netz Politics or Q reports. We have a state Trojan similar to this Pegasus staff rights behavior that made some news recently, but recurring subscribers here to my channel are already aware of all the cases before that. To no one's surprise of us computer scientists. And in Germany we have some state Trojan of the police can use, heck, basically in what time are we living in, right? Previously you had relied on detective work of police doing their job, and of course they should do, and catch criminals and stuff and make a fair process. But first of all, computer scientists in Germany warned and did not support this state Trojan similar to this Pegasus. So of course developing software, hacking, keeping systems insecure so that the government can use their state Trojan software to hack potentially innocent people. And it was promised, similar to here, it's for the children, it was against terrorism. We were promised it's only used against the biggest terrorist crimes, and then some years later it turns out police is using the German state Trojan software mostly for ransom and drugs and stuff. So yeah, they came for the terrorist and then they used it mostly for regular crime that I would argue is not worth breaking people's privacy and setting precedent for China, Russia, Belarus, North Korea and so forth to copy this, because hey, Germany has it, right? It must be amazing. And similar to here in Russia, demanding that new software Russian iPhone buyers will be prompted to install software developed for that country, setting precedents for other authoritarian governments, like building their own internet and 100% basically in cases of opposition they don't like Navalny and all the others, scanning their phones for example, whistleblowers, blowing their corruption cases and other illegal business of the politicians. And the problem is, of course, as usual, so this is one thing, this is basically establishing state surveillance in legal or first-party Apple form. But the problem is, of course, that there is a much larger market and where to set the boundary, right, between Apple and probably soon other vendors scanning your stuff, even on your phone. So yeah, so much to end-to-end encryption, and what stays on your phone, what happens on your phone stays on your phone. It's, yeah, these are this kind of clever, out-of-the-box thinking, think differently, of how to scan the stuff on the people's devices when it's end-to-end encrypted. It's like, yeah, we just scan it on the devices. And also the arrogance of wasting your phone running hot, your battery running low, especially when you travel somewhere in China, Russia, or stuff like this. Like, yeah, because your bloody phone is even using your battery power, battery life to AI. It's like, yeah, isn't it nice, AI acceleration course you have in there, scanning your photos and documents, thank you very much. The arrogance of even using your resources to monitor your device, to backdoor your device. Couldn't even come up with that crazy idea some years ago, but that is a crazy times we're living in. Similar to this Pegasus software, this is of course the difference, right? On one hand, the governments, probably even US, UK, but definitely in Germany, the politicians were outraged about this Pegasus spyware sold to governments. But this is also the double standard, right? On one hand, this being outraged of spyware found in France, French journalists and governments pointing out that this is not like legal, and also I think even like politicians close to Sarkozy or other UK parliament members and stuff, just from my memory. But yeah, the double standard of being outraged, but GCHQ, German state, Trojan here, establishing this by law, right? And the German ones, human rights activists and computer scientists went to the highest court and won, I think maybe once or even twice. Each time they changed the law a little bit, just to try. We changed a little bit and they get sued again and lose again. And now, I'm not, from my memory, it might be the third iteration or something. But even in Germany, the governments, where you would think we have a somewhat sane or rightful political system, even there the politicians try the borders, lose in the highest constitutional court, and try it again and again, just a little bit, just a tiny little bit changed, until it passes, and finally the judges give up and say, okay, fine, it's that just passes under this threshold. Crazy times, crazy things, and the problem is, of course, as I said, establishing that in legal frameworks, in G7, G8 or industrialized countries, and with that destroying Western values of previously freedom. The USA for decades trying to bring freedom to the world, even starting wars, trying to free and bring democracy to states like Afghanistan and Iraq and stuff. And yet, what are the values? Where do we finally say enough is enough? And the problem is always for the children first, like smuggling this. Who would not want to protect their children more? And always using this kind of stuff here for the children, in Germany, of course, only for the terrorists, until it's used for just some random drugs, or drugs, right? The war on drugs, and probably next in the USA, obviously scanning for drugs, right? Also, anyway, crazy things, and so much to Apple, the privacy-first company. Of course, it was only skin deep, only lasted a year or two, and let's see. So welcome everyone, welcome there for the subscription. As usual, just bring here some news. I didn't do a lot of this. I previously did some security debriefing here weekly. Maybe I start this again. Missing this myself a little bit. Leave in the comments below if you previously have seen this. If you are interested, there's a huge archive. I'm missing this myself a little bit. Maybe I should actually do that. Weekly security news and debriefing and stuff. Let's see. Some Archibald not disagreeing, but Android isn't too much better. Yeah, so this is also why we need more open and community systems, and neither trusting Apple and Google too much, obviously, especially with Google, with all their marketing, scanning and stuff. So yeah, free press in China, great joke. Yeah, happy that you enjoy our joking. I wish it would be more positive stuff to joke about. Dr. Schubert, capitalism only money matters. Capitalism status only extends of the rich, so long as mass media manipulates the mass. Democracy is powerless against this. This is why I hope my independent summary helps people to learn some new stuff, get some new angles, and obviously to summarize this, what we need. So this is also, we need more secure systems, right? And what Apple is breaking is the security, and as usual with all the backdoors, misuse, similar to the state Trojan here in Germany. Why is this a problem? The problem is that they of course use security vulnerabilities and keep them secret, and basically fueling the market for $100,000 or euro exploits there from iOS to Android, just to keep their, like, to buy them on this market. Are also similar to, yeah, on one hand the government outcries it here, but on the other hand they buy the software, right? So so many other governments sold governments targeting, yeah, I mean sold also to governments probably targeting whistleblowers and drugs and children and stuff. And so the problem is that I have all backdoors are always misused, and the governments, even if they buy them, the knowledge of course exists. No one stops them, even if like the German or German government, UK government, US government buys backdoors there on the market, using them at the NSA, CIA, GCHQ, whatever, BND, or whatever the services might be, FSBs in Russia. And the knowledge is still out there, right? And security vulnerabilities need to be fixed. Otherwise, only more states use them, more spyware uses them, and of course other criminals like all the ransomware, pipelines, manufacturing, and so on, get into the system, break into the system. So we can't have, to summarize it, we can't have secure systems with backdoors. The knowledge is always out there. Governments will misuse, criminals will find them, and not last but not least, the level of being nice to their citizens and all minority groups here in China. And Russia. So let's see, what do we have otherwise. Yeah, bad actor exactly rolling out, probably activated for a long time. And yeah, so to summarize, it's also, I think maybe I forgot to mention, but what I mean by that is also that legalizing this, so basically what Apple is getting asked in China and Russia, probably Apple, not sure if I finished the thought earlier, my thought earlier was Apple basically having these inquiries from big governments, especially where they have big business in China, of course less business in Russia, but certainly quite some iPhones sold China, and then having some keeping their face and establishing systems. Of course Apple will not stand there and say, hey, for the Chinese mass surveillance we implement this local AI scanning systems. Of course they need probably some nice PR of, hey, it is for the children, even though maybe the system even intentionally designed for the requirements in China, Russia and other such states, which, as I outlined, the Western world is not, unfortunately, every year getting closer to, with all the surveillance for tourists and children. So what else do we have there? No bad actor will ever use insecure by design devices. Yeah, exactly. PinePhone there. So the problem, yeah, so totally agree, we need more open systems. I wish previous videos, unfortunately, we built too much with C. I think we would have been much more innovative and much more competitive if we would have written UI systems not in C. And deliver. The problem is with the open source stuff, very few real true open source, like previously what was the GPE, GNOME phone edition or so, or GTK phone, GPE, abondones, other now KDE Plasma, but also quite resource intensive. The PinePhone, previous videos, I got one donated from a viewer. Huge thanks again. Highly appreciate this, but of course the socks, I think it was all winner, like 10-year, kinder 10-year-old performance. Of course not state-of-the-art, plus not the most snappy open source UI and not bringing the best experience. Unfortunately, we need to work on that, we need to get better with that. And of course, the previous shout-outs here, track record of Linux with monolithic kernel, all the stuff in a single address space, written in C. We got this, not with previous videos, security vulnerabilities. And so yeah, stuff needs to get way better and more secure, better performant. And what else do we have there? Paid, part of this one total control. There are some people not sure if Corona helps with total control, but yeah, Krypton Linux. Some Taipei. Right, PinePhone still has lots of proprietary components. Well, I would say not so many. I think the biggest problem with the PinePhone is also what is with the baseband, probably baseband proprietary, but the biggest problem with this open source phones, performance, and UI, open source UI and snappiness. But any progress is of course good progress. If you watched the 30 million line problem video, Casey, no, I don't recall that. Maybe link it here. If you don't use iCloud, iPhone and other Apple devices, still pretty darn private and secure, at least for the general public, isn't targeted by the Pegasus spyware and others. Yeah, so the problem is of course that this stuff doesn't need to use iCloud, right? So this is scanning, so this will scan, is my understanding. There is some paper, of course, fancy AI, protection, expanded protection for children. There is some fancy white paper, because white paper is always the best whitewashing. There is some hashing, so there will be some notifications, so you can get notifications of, hey, your child is using this something, or if you are a child, you get some notification, hey, do you really want to see this? This might not be the most amazing content. Maybe ask you. The problem is, of course, also that, that most people will just click OK, especially kids, right? It's not like, don't tell me this could be sensitive to view. Are you sure? It means like, yeah, of course, everyone will You can't tell me. I've seen people, even security SSL certificates, people click on just, I don't care, click connect anyway because freaking wanna access this. And so they have here some hashes. The problem is, of course, it's like, yeah, this is of course a stupid example. The thing is, of course, I have worked on digital image processing and stuff, hashes. It is not as easy. Of course, they say here, yes, it's still the same image coloring. It's like, yeah, thank you very much. Just process everything in black and white. But it ain't that simple because, of course, the best matching like skin tones and stuff, you can't tell me that this is real world. I don't believe this is shit, especially if you want to hash. Although, yeah, this is a problem, right? You could skin tone match somewhat. Of course, in grayscale, all the skin tone matching is gone. But then, like child abuse stuff could send stuff in grayscale to avoid this. This is, of course, a problem. How do you design that? Maybe then skin tone matching is not the best thing if simple grayscale could avoid this. But the problem is also if you crop this, right? Apple oversimplifies this, right? I'm too much of an expert and too long in the industry to understand if you crop this ideally, and this is the difference, you cannot simply hash this stuff. Otherwise you could simply crop this, right? You think you want to share this illegal palm tree here and you just crop this. I mean, you can't tell me that the hash still has the same hash here, color space, transformation, my ass. You want that this still is the same hash or match if you crop the freaking illegal palm tree here or drug tree. And that is extremely difficult. You can't tell me that Apple solves this easily. So all this hashing bullshit, my ass, that is not like crop this child a little bit differently and not match this anymore. This is complete bullshit, right? This is also always, it's not passing any well-informed computer scientist bullshit smell test here. I would even say, go as far as hashing this like with color transformation, some distortion and cropping that differently, always matching the hash. I would even go as far as say this is kind of sort of impossible without maybe some general artificial intelligence could potentially like sync data from Star Trek, but otherwise each simple, even pseudo-artificial hash will not match something color transformed, cropped and stuff, and people can still enjoy it. This is hilarious. So yeah, scanning this on the device, it's like, yeah, only if some, also always decryption and stuff, it's like crypting and decrypting and second encryption layers. You had me at, you had my bullshit detector ringing alarm bells with second encryption layer. It's like only if this matches of threshold of secret sharing, are there enough secret shares? Only then if both layers are decrypted, voucher content revealed and reviewed by, I think this is some human review or something. It's like, yeah, this smells bullshit, and in general I would, as I argued, not something the society would want on a large scale. Anyway, that's mostly it for this video. I hope you learned something. Only relevant to photo backups to iCloud photos are not. So, as I said, this is local scanning. So it sounds to me, I'm not even, do they iCloud photo account? Okay, they say iCloud, but as they scan here on the device, neural hash, yeah, thank you very much. So as this is on-device scanning, I would think this, yeah, messages uses on-device machine learning to analyze image attachments. So it does not sound, maybe Apple wants to make it sound like it's only iCloud, but I mean, first of all, it's also iMessage, right? It's not like storing something in iCloud, it's also messages you receive, and then most iPhone users use iMessage quite a lot. The question is also, I mean, there you also see, right, either it works on the whole device, and if you use WhatsApp or other Signal and stuff, does it also neural hash other documents from Signal or all getting that by email? Where is the border? Where does it stop? It sounds to me as it's on device they can neural hash anything, even your email attachment and stuff. And even if in this iteration it's only iMessage and iCloud, whatever that means if it's on device, but who stops them if they scan this on device? Who stops them to scan either today already, or at least as the next step tomorrow, all your other third-party programs like email, other messengers, and other cloud services? Anyway, that's it for this video. I guess that wraps it up. As usual, leave in the comments below if you want to see more of this, if you have learned something, what other comments you have. And I hope to see you soon for our next videos and live streams.